All right, let's dive into something I think a lot of us have quietly wondered about: the psychology behind having a really small circle of friends. Is it actually a problem, or is there something much deeper going on? I mean, do you ever get that little pang of anxiety, that feeling that maybe you're just not social enough? Well, what if I told you that entire worry is based on a complete misunderstanding of how your mind is actually wired? And that's really the heart of what we're going to unpack here. Society is quick to slap on a label, right? Antisocial. But psychology, well, it suggests it's not a failure to connect at all. In fact, it might just be a sign that your brain is built for a different and honestly a much deeper kind of interaction. So let's get into our first big idea. This isn't about avoiding people. No. It's about being incredibly selective about the kind of energy you let into your life. This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the core of the feeling. It's this deep, almost physical intolerance for anything that feels inauthentic. The more you get to know yourself, the less patience you have for fake behavior. And it's not about being rude. It's about protecting your own peace of mind. So let's flip the script. The common misconception is that you're antisocial, maybe a little awkward, or just lonely. But the reality, it's more like you have an allergy to fakeness. Your brain might just be wired to be amazing at picking up on subtle manipulation or hidden motives, and that makes you instinctively pull back. And this leads us to a core principle here: depth over quantity. You're not trying to avoid relationships, you're just dodging the shallow ones. It's a quest for connections that actually feel real, that have some substance to them. So, what does that actually look like day to day? Well, it means you find yourself actively steering clear of these kinds of draining interactions. If a conversation isn't about real ideas or psychology or something that actually matters, it can feel like a total waste of energy. You'd literally rather have quiet than listen to empty words. This whole idea of energy ties directly into our next point, because let's be real, not everyone's social battery is built the same way. Psychology actually has a name for this: high social sensitivity. What that really means is that your brain is working in overdrive during social events. You're not just hearing the words, you're processing every emotional cue, analyzing the subtext, and picking up on all these tiny details that most people just miss. And all of that processing, it takes a ton of power. Just think of it like this. For an extrovert, socializing can literally charge their battery up. But for someone with high social sensitivity, every single conversation has a cost. That battery drains, and sometimes it drains fast. And that's not a choice. It's just a neurological reality. And that's why needing alone time isn't a sign that you're unfriendly. It's an absolutely necessary recovery period. Solitude is how you plug back in. It's how you recharge that very finite social energy. You have to save it for the people and conversations that truly, genuinely matter to you. This brings us right to our third big theme, which is all about independence and the lessons we learn from our past. Here's another really cool psychological concept: low social dependency. All that means is that your sense of self-worth comes from within. You don't need a crowd of people telling you you're great to feel good about yourself. Now, to others, this might look like you're being distant, but it's actually a sign of some serious inner strength. And these are the classic signs of that self-reliance, right? You can keep yourself entertained for hours. You try to solve problems on your own before you ask for help. And ultimately, your own opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. You've built your own world, and you're pretty comfortable in it. But where does all this caution come from? Well, a lot of the time, it's a learned response. If you've been hurt in the past, maybe through a betrayal or just by being around the wrong kind of people, your brain learns to put up walls. It becomes more protective. It's a survival mechanism, plain and simple. And what this does is it creates a really high threshold for trust. You don't just let anyone in. There's a whole process, right? First, you observe from a distance. Then you kind of test for consistency and character. And only then, very slowly, do you grant access. It's not about being suspicious. It's about being wise with your energy and your heart. Okay, so we've looked at all these different pieces of the puzzle. What's the big takeaway here? How should we really be thinking about this way of being in the world? I think it all comes down to this, and it's so important. Having few friends does not mean something is wrong with you. It just means your mind works differently. It's operating with more awareness, more sensitivity, and frankly, much higher standards for what you call a real connection. And when you start to look at it that way, you realize all these traits we've been talking about can be reframed as incredible strengths. That ability to see through fakeness, that's just sharp intuition. That need for solitude, it fuels a rich inner world and a deep self-awareness. It's a superpower. There's this really powerful idea I want you to consider. This path isn't a sign of weakness. It's like the quote says, sometimes the people with the strongest minds walk alone for a while. It's a journey where you build this incredible inner strength. And that's really the final thought to leave you with. What if it's time to stop seeing a small social circle as a deficit and start seeing it for what it truly is? A deliberate, powerful choice. A sign not of loneliness, but of profound selectivity.